Bret Boone played 14 years, 5 teams, including the Mariners and Reds. 266 batting average, 1,775 hits, 252 home runs, 1,020 RBIs, and 927 runs scored. And he's a 4-time Gold Glove Award winner, 2 Silver Slugger Awards. Like, this is not anyone to take lightly out there. This guy is a legend in his own right. And I grew up watching his pops right here in Southern California. He's a Southern California native himself. And I got to ask him a question right out the gate. But please welcome my main man, Bret Boone, to the show. Clap it up. Bret, man, appreciate you, brother.
Do not take me lightly.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. How you doing?
Love your show, man. I just started watching your show yourself, man. You got all this. I grew up a baseball guy, man. As I got older, I'm like, I'm football, baseball. But I grew up watching your pops as a Dodger fan. Back in our day when we were young, you and I are about the same age. We grew up in the Freeway Series. It started in the preseason.
Right.
Dodgers, Angels. And I was like, all right, let's go watch these Angels play. And your pops was behind the right there at the home plate, man, and catching the rock. Your whole family lineage is unbelievable. It's like Smitty said, you're the Mannings of baseball.
Ball, yeah.
Archie, Peyton, Eli.
Yeah, it's it's something that's cool. And when you're young and you're coming up and you're trying to find your way, I always thought as a kid it was a burden. I'm like, you know what? I'm sick of hearing about my dad. I don't want to hear about my grandpa. Let's talk about me. Let's talk about me when I'm hitting here. And I remember as a young, especially when I first signed and was an A-ball in Double-A, it seemed like every city I'd go to, they just wanted to talk about my dad and the shoes I had to fill.
Yeah.
And at the time, I got pretty resentful. Like, I love my dad. I love my gramps, but I got to do this myself. Now, fast forward, go through my career and then post career, it's a part of my life, and I'm very proud now of what my family's been able to accomplish thus far and still accomplishing. I'm very proud of what Aaron's doing in New York.
Yeah.
He's on the hot seat constantly, but where else you want to be? I tell him that all the time. I said, why wouldn't you want to be on the hottest seat in America? And one day you win a World Series and you got the key to one of the biggest cities in the world for the rest of your life. So I'm really proud of what he's doing. But I've been blessed. And we've had a hell of a run, and we're still going, and hopefully my kids will carry on that legacy. I've got a son now that played in the minor leagues for a few years, but now he's working at the MLB offices in Manhattan, so maybe he'll carry it on in an executive type situation. But very cool, and like very, very blessed life I've been able to lead so far.
That's amazing.
No doubt. Thanks for coming on. I got to ask you right out the gate, though. SC alum.
Yeah.
You don't know fucking Shaun Salisbury, do you?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. SC.
He didn't play at the same. He's before you because you're
right. He's before. I think he's before. Yeah, he's before me.
It was close though. It might have been like a year off, maybe.
Let me think. Salisbury.
What year Salisbury's way before us. He's way before you.
I signed in 1990.
Oh.
Yeah. You signed with you're there with like
you want to talk about SC alumni?
SC, USC, right? Yeah.
USC. Okay, my freshman year, Rodney Pete was the man quarterback. Then I lived through 2 years of Marinovich, and I think they won 2 Rose Bowls in my time there. Junior Seau was my grade.
Junior. You also was Matthews there with you?
No.
No, he's before you too, Clay's dad. And then you had and then after you came, I think Rob Johnson, the Johnsons.
Rob Johnson, Rob Johnson was after me. That might have been Aaron's generation because my brother.
Yeah, it might have been Aaron.
His freshman year, I think, was 91. So he played 3 years, 91, 92, 93. So he could have been the Rob Johnson. I was just at an SC game the other day. Buddy of mine, Eric Musselman's there, the hoops coach. And I took Dad and we went up and sat. He was nice enough to sit us courtside. Actually, I told him, I said, I don't go to the game unless you got courtside. So he goes, I'll make sure you're courtside. But I got to go see him. I know SC hasn't had the best year, but it was nice getting up. I hadn't been to the campus in a while, and a lot of memories there. My daughter went to USC, so I've spent a lot of time up there.
Yeah, I think Shaun just had a birthday the other day. He's in his 60s now, so he's a little older than us.
Right.
He's San Diego guy though. He grew up in San Diego as well. So he's a legend down there as well. Hooper and a football guy before he went to SC. So shout out to him. But man, I appreciate you joining us. We can't thank you enough. I got to ask you right out the gate, since you mentioned your brother Aaron being at one of the biggest payrolls in baseball, along with the Dodgers. He lost a significant piece to their pitching staff yesterday. And Garrett Cole, what Tommy John surgery is required. Anything? I know you don't have to say what your brother said if you even talked to him, but how big of a loss is that at this stage in spring training going forward, knowing that the season's a long ways away and a long season? Is that a huge insurmountable?
Well, what's nice about Aaron and myself, our relationship, we usually talk about once a week, but when things are happening on purpose, I don't talk to him. I really don't, because everybody's going to assume, oh, well, Brett's got the inside. I like kind of like reporting it straight and just facts and what I think. I look at Garrett Cole, obviously one of the best pitchers in baseball. He had this problem a year ago, and he missed the first couple months of the season. And when he came back, he kind of started off slow, but as the season built, he became the Garrett Cole we're used to and had a really good postseason. Obviously, the way it ended wasn't the best. But anytime you take a team's ace, absolutely, that's a blow. I laugh because about a month ago, I think we all saw the clip of Marcus Stroman saying, I'm a starter, I'm a starter, I'm a starter. Now you're the number 3 starter. You went from the 6th starter to the 3 with Heel, who won the Rookie of the Year a year ago, being out. He's going to miss the first 3 months. That's a huge blow. So a lot of it now goes to the shoulders of the Max Fried, who came over and is a Cy Young, if healthy, is definitely a Cy Young candidate going into the season. You got Rendon behind him. He's got to really step up, but you can't replace a Cole. Bigger problems for me, I see, and I said this a year ago. You had Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, arguably the best 1-2 punch in baseball. Obviously, we know Soto went to the Mets. Yeah. But I've said since the beginning, Aaron Judge, MVP, Juan Soto, MVP caliber a year ago. If Aaron Judge wasn't on his team, he would have probably won the MVP. We know what they bring to the table. But I've always said Giancarlo Stanton in the middle of that lineup, just his mere presence makes that lineup click. And you saw what he did in the postseason. Stepped up. He was probably their best player offensively in the postseason. Well, him and Soto, you can make an argument. Yeah. But the Giancarlo Stanton, with the departure of Soto, really, I think they should be worried about not having his presence. Where are you going to pick that up from? You got a Goldschmidt, MVP 4 years ago, but he's 37 years old. Been a great player, had a tremendous career. What's he got left in the tank? I still think he's a formidable offensive player, but I think his MVP years are behind him. Cody Bellinger, as athletic as they get, he can play any position in the outfield, can play first base. That's not what I question. Are we getting the Cody Bellinger that won an MVP, comeback player of the year? Or are we getting the Cody Bellinger of a few years ago in LA where he really struggled back-to-back seasons? So right now I look at it like, wow, with these guys, 2 big guys being out for him, there's some guys that really have to step it up and be a force. I think Volpe's going to be 1 year more mature. I think he's going to be a better player and continue to get better. But it's going to be Jazz Chisholm. It's a time for him. He's got to really step up. So collectively, I think that offense, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're out looking for something now with the Giancarlo Stanton news. We still don't know what's going to happen with him. But with that looming, it just doesn't sound good. It's both my elbows, I'm going to miss opening day. Then, if I get surgery, I'm missing the season. I'm hearing the same stuff you guys are hearing. But if you're going to miss him, you might need another pitcher and you might need another hitter. That's up to Cashman. But everybody's sitting there and they're watching the Yankees kind of these scenarios play out. And everybody knows that too. So the price of poker might have just gone up. It's going to be interesting to see. I look at a guy like an Alcantara in Miami, who's coming back from Tommy John surgery, definitely a Cy Young caliber. That might be a trade target for them. It's been peddled all offseason, the San Diego Padres, who I don't know. It's got to be a financial thing. A Dylan Cease, a Michael King, who I think are 2 great frontline starting pitchers. they've kind of hinted like they might be available. They're not. They ended up not trading them. That might be a target of the Yankees too, but it's going to be interesting to see. A month ago, I was feeling really good about the Yankees in that American League East. After all this news, I think, like you guys, there's a lot of pessimism holding over Yankee camp right now.
Did the Orioles and Red Sox just kind of get back in this, favorite conversation in that division? I mean, shit. I mean, Orioles were better than people thought last year. I don't know if they thought that they saw that rise, and now are they going to even be closer? And then, Toronto's not. They're making moves. The Yankees' window's kind of closing with these injuries. No.
Well, I look at the Orioles, and I think how did they get better this offseason? They didn't. They're a good team. They're a young, talented team. A lot of potential there, but you let your best pitcher go in Corbin Burns, and one of the best pitchers in all of baseball the last 4 or 5 years. He's gone. You can't get better when he leaves.
Yeah.
So I don't see the Orioles being – but I really like what Boston did this offseason. I mean, they just quietly got Crochet, who to me is kind of a Tariq Skubal, Cy Young Award winner from the Detroit Tigers. He's in that vein to put him at the top of the rotation. Then you got a Walker Buehler. Walker Buehler came off Tommy John surgery a year ago. Had a 5 ERA going into the postseason, but kind of found his stride and ended up winning a World Series. If they're getting the Walker Buehler of 3 years ago, right behind a Crochet, that's as formidable as a 1-2 punch. You got Bregman. The thing I worry about in that camp right now, and I've seen it before in my career, is you've got a Bregman and you've got the best player in Boston in Rafael Devers. And Devers is saying, I'm the third baseman. And Bregman's kind of playing it great. He got a big contract, $120 million. He's a great player. He's definitely a superior defender. It's not even an argument. That being said, Rafael Devers is the man in Boston. And I think Cora this is going to be Cora's biggest challenge, is to get these two guys. How do I get Devers to accept whatever role I do? Because I think in the end, Devers, whether he likes it or not, is going to be DH and maybe first base. And I think Bregman's going to be the third baseman. It makes sense. If Bregman's a third baseman, Boston is a better team. Bregman can go over to second base, do the job. I really like that acquisition. Bregman's skill set as an offensive player, I didn't like him going to a big ballpark. I didn't like him going to a park with right field being big. His bread and butter, his power is left field. That Astros ballpark was made for him. And all of a sudden he goes to Fenway, pull hitter, his powers to pull. I'll tell you what, that's the second best place he could have gone. I think Bregman's going to have a big year at Fenway Park.
Speaking of the champs, the Dodgers here in my backyard, Smitty's backyard, Dave Roberts re-signed. I mean, because you just mentioned all the stuff the Yankees had and how much unbelievable talent they had. And then the Dodgers go in there and just show it's ridiculous how much talent they have. Dave Roberts signed a new deal. He was on the hot seat too, right? L.A., New York. Seemed like those two teams, you should have get off the pot.
Both got extensions.
Yeah, both got extensions. Yeah, so worthy. I mean, they won the title, obviously, but every year you go back to the Houston series, and then they got beat, and all this stuff. People wanted them out of here, and bad pitching lineup. Decisions pulling guys out, and when they should have kept them in. All these decisions. You think that was the right move? Obviously, for him, it is. I'm happy. I mean, he won it recently. It's all about what have you done for me lately in the business, right? They won it, and it probably favors again for probably the next few years to come, right?
Well, yeah, it's amazing. And I look back to what you were talking about when they had that goofy, we'll play these guys for 4 innings, then we'll put in a different set for 4 innings. I think you were really pushing the envelope on the analytical side of things, getting a little carried away with it. I think they've gotten rid of that and let David kind of do his thing. I think it was a good deal. When Craig Counsell signed that deal, it kind of upped the ante. And now you're coming off a World Series, the track record he's had, the time he's been at. Hey, why? If anybody's going to get it right now, it's going to be a Roberts. Right. So, yeah, I think Roberts is the guy to lead that team. From what I hear, the players really like him. They respond to him. They're coming off a World Series championship team. And all this talk about the Yankees and the Boston Red Sox and, pick a team. The Phillies are really good. Atlanta's going to be good. There's a lot of teams out there that are very formidable. But let's be honest. If this Dodgers team stays healthy, they're pretty much unbeatable. It might be the best team on paper. And like I said, injuries, especially in 2025, it's not like 25 years ago where guys didn't get injured at the rate they do now. But with the injury rate being the way it is in Major League Baseball, if this Dodger team can remain healthy, I don't see anybody being really a competition for them. They're that good and they're that deep. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. Clayton Kershaw, at the end of his career, one of the
18th year, right? 18th year for the Dodgers.
Right. One of the greatest pitchers of all time. Signed back with the Dodgers. Now, he's not the Clayton Kershaw when he was 28 years old, but he's still Clayton Kershaw. I remember facing a Greg Maddux at the end of his career. He was 40 years old, and I'm facing him. And everybody's kind of, oh, he's 40. I said, listen, that's Greg Maddux, and I just faced him. Yeah, he's 40, but he's still better than 90% of the 30-year-olds. He's that great. I think Clayton Kershaw is in that breath. But I was looking at this roster. If healthy, when Kershaw comes back, he potentially could be their 8th starter. That's how strong they are now. I've heard recent news with Ohtani. They've held him back from throwing bullpens again. So we're gonna see how that plays out, whether he gets back on the mound in reasonable time. But looking up and down that roster, I was on a team in 2001 in Seattle. We won 116 games. And every year when somebody gets off to a hot start, that's a question they ask me. Hey, is your record in jeopardy? I laugh at people. I go, no one will ever see that in my lifetime. It was a magic carpet ride. It was lightning in a bottle. But after looking at that Dodger roster and what they did this offseason, if there's any time in history where that 116's in jeopardy, it might be this year.
Man,
shit, I know they're loaded. God dang, I know they're loaded. We have a friend of the program who comes on our show, and he's a pitcher now with the Cardinals. Keenan Middleton got hurt last year in the rotation. He got hurt, but he was talking about, he played with Ohtani and with the Angels, and he was like, man, listen, the Dodgers are unbelievable. We went to open day. They played out here in L.A. Cardinals came out here last year for opening day, and he was like, listen, the Dodgers he was just joking like you. He's like, they may not lose a game. They're unbelievable. They're just so loaded. I mean, 9 pitchers. Does Ohtani have to pitch for this team to be that great? No, right?
No, but if Ohtani's pitching, they're even greater. You know what I'm saying? Scary. I mean, it's tough to argue with the year he had a year ago. If Aaron Judge didn't exist, Ohtani. Ohtani did win it. Different league. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he got it.
With the exception of Aaron Judge, I think Ohtani's the best offensive player in baseball. And there's an argument. Is it better for Ohtani just to hit? Are we just going to be happy with expecting this guy to hit 50 homers and hit 300? I think management-wise, maybe yes. Mm-hmm. But I think Ohtani, I think he enjoys doing what he's doing, breaking barriers. He's doing things that I never thought was possible. I thought one day a pitcher, you might be able to pitch and hit, but it would be more of a relief role where you'd come in, maybe a closer. To be in the rotation and to take the ball every 5th day and to hit, I never thought that was attainable at the highest level. Well, Ohtani's proven that wrong. I think he really likes that because he is the only one. So as much as you say, oh, no, we're just going to have you hit, I think Ohtani's going to have something to say about that. He wants to hit, steal bases, and then take the ball every 5th day and strike out 15 hitters. So as long as his arm holds up, I think he's going to be, if it's up to him, he's pitching. So, and from a baseball fan, I love to see things that have never been done before. I watched that Super Bowl this year, and I'm not a huge football guy, but I look at Patrick Mahomes. He gets a lot of hate out there, especially in the fake Twitter world. But nevertheless, people don't like Patrick Mahomes. And people love Patrick Mahomes on both sides of the ledger. Yeah. For me, a Tom Brady, everybody would say, oh, we want to see Brady get his butt kicked. We want to see the Chiefs and Holmes get his butt kicked because they win all the time.
Right.
Yeah, there's that side of the ledger. Now, I grew up in Jersey, so I wasn't pissed that the Eagles won. But at the same time, I love to see greatness. And the fact that nobody's ever gone back to back to back, I thought if Mahomes wins, I'm not going to be sad either because I just witnessed greatness. Tom Brady winning 7 Super Bowls. It's like, yeah, you get sick of rooting for Tom Brady. Well, I never necessarily rooted for him, but I appreciated each and every Super Bowl ring he won because I thought we're witnessing history every time it happens. So I like to see greatness. That's why I'd like to see Ohtani push the envelope. How great can he be? I don't know if he can exceed what he's done thus far. He's been unbelievable, but I always like to see what's next.
No, for sure, and I'm glad we're bringing up Ohtani. We're talking about him right now because you played with some great. You were great in your own right as well, and you've seen all these different legends throughout the years. Like, I guess how great when you look at some of the stars today. We mentioned Aaron Judge, you mentioned Ohtani. How do you think they hold up of the greats of old? With the Barry Bonds of the world, and just some of the of your era. Like, when you compare and contrast, like, do you think they hold up? The rules are different today's game. There's changes. How do you look at it?
You play with one, Ichiro. You play with one of the great.
Baller,
Yeah.
By the way, he stole your MVP in 01, by the way, right?
Thank you. Yes. We've had this discussion. I've sent messages to Ichiro. Anytime you want to send me the trophy, I'll still accept it. I'm not mad at you. But you're right. I appreciate you saying that, so I didn't have to. And now I'll just come over the top and say it as well. Anyway, that being said, I think in sports, it's really tough to compare generations. It's really not fair. The athlete today is different than they were. The criteria, what they guys get paid for today is different than what I got paid for. When I was playing, I was told three things: average, home runs, RBIs. That's what got you paid. That's how I trained. My job was to drive in runs. Today, it's all about OPS. It's all about getting on base and hitting the ball over the wall. And if you hit 234, nobody cares. Well, I always thought if you hit 234, because I've done it before, you stink. You're a bad hitter. But these guys focus and they train because they know what pays is OPS, is walks, controlling the strike zone, hitting the ball over the wall. So I don't think it's really fair to compare eras. The athlete's definitely superior in today's day and age at every sport, at every level. And that's because of the training, the technology we have. I'm very envious of a lot of the techniques and what these athletes today have at their fingertips. I would have killed for that. But it's like when I was coming up and playing. My grandpa was a huge part of my life. He played 47 to 59, and he had the Ted Williams, and the stories went on forever. Bob Feller was the greatest to ever live, and I'd have conversations with him once in a while, and he'd be like, he'd be talking about Randy Johnson. Yeah, he has got nothing on Bob Feller. I'd be like, Gramps, wait, ho. Randy's pretty good. He's pretty good. Shoot, I don't know. That's how grandpas are, and I expect them to be that way. They're going to defend their generation. Yeah. But I think if you're going to be fair, I think there's a lot of things about the game today I love. A lot of things I wish weren't the way they are. But it's baseball, and you got to move with the times. These guys today, Aaron Judge, Ohtani, Soto, the way they play the game, they're great. Now, the only exception I'll make is, you mentioned it, Barry Bonds. This man, I can't even explain him. There was Barry Bonds, and then there was the rest of us. Okay, and we're talking about the greats of greats, the Ken Griffey Jr.'s, who I played with as a kid. I thought I was really good. Coming up through the minor leagues, I thought I was all that. I got to the big leagues. I watched Ken Griffey Jr. for a while, and we were the same age. Yeah. And I thought I was good. This guy's from a different planet. So Ken Griffey Jr. is the best player I've ever played with. But as far as I've ever seen with my own eyes, it's not even close. And I think Bonds was just playing a different game. It's like Bonds was playing slow pitch softball, and the rest of us were playing Major League Baseball. That's how good he was. I don't think there's anybody ever played the game that hit like Barry Bonds hit. And because if you missed, I've never seen pitchers fear a hitter like I saw that. And if you got time, I'll give you a quick story, and it's fun.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah, you got time.
This is around 2004. My grandpa passed away in 2004. We were very close through my whole career. I get the word Gramps is in the hospital. I have a day game in Seattle. And remember, Ray Boone, this is a proud man about his era and his generation, and you're going to have to fight him for him to admit anything. So I fly to San Diego, and they've got him, hooked up to the machines, and he can't talk, but he can write on a chalkboard. And we're just talking, I'm just kind of, this might be Gramps' last few days, and I'm kind of soaking this all in, and we're writing notes back and forth to each other. And he looks at me, and he points to the TV, and Jake Peavy was pitching for the Padres. He was a young player, and Gramps was a scout for 40 years after he retired. And he wrote down on the chalkboard, he said, "Bret, this Jake Peavy kid has got a chance to be a really good pitcher." And then he said, "And by the way, yes, Barry Bonds is better than Ted Williams." Now, for Grandpa to say that,
Ooh, shit.
yeah, I started crying right away. You know why? Because I knew that sucker was dying right there. He was not going to live to have to talk to me about this, because he would never. Him and Ted Williams went to the same high school, Hoover High in San Diego. They played together briefly in Boston at the end of my grandpa's career. And I'm telling you, you talk to Grandpa, Ted Williams walked on water. And for him to admit that, it kind of just cemented all my thoughts of Barry being the best. And since then, my father has said the same thing. And my dad is very proud of his lineage too, and of his generation, and the Mike Schmidts and the Pete Roses that he played with, and all the greats from the 70s and the 80s. Dad even says too, he says, Bonds is the best I've ever seen. So I don't think there's a question. Take Bonds out of the equation, and these players today are great. But you add Bonds to anybody, at least that I've seen, and now maybe 20 years from now, I'll say, hey, this guy's like Barry was, but I haven't seen anything. And when I say not even close, not even close.
It's a shame he's not in the Hall of Fame, right?
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know if did you play with Greg Vaughn?
No. I missed Greg on a couple different places. He played in Cincinnati. He played in San Diego. I played in San Diego, Cincinnati, just at different times. I know Vonnie pretty well. He's tight with Aaron. They were teammates.
Yeah.
But yeah, Greg, great player too.
Real quick. Go ahead, JB. I'm sorry.
I do a golfing deal with him and Boomer. And he lives in San Diego, got the burger spot. I do a golf deal up in Sacramento, so I got pretty close with Greg. Good dude, man. His daughters do the equestrian stuff, and
good guy.
Good stuff. Hey, I real quick, Smith, I got a story too. It's crazy. The reason I got baseball lineage on my side, because my grandfather, who was a Navy boxer and then played pro baseball. He's like in a couple history books in Major League Baseball. He was the only man ever to pitch a doubleheader. This is in 19. Now, remember, he played for the St. Louis Browns. So my grandfather was born in 1902, by the way.
Before they moved to Cleveland? Oh,
yes.
Not that.
And so, and he played with but anyway, him and Dizzy Dean were roommates.
Really?
Yeah, and I got pictures, and true story too. I got some other stuff that I have. He passed away in 95 at 93 years old, but he also struck out Babe Ruth 3 times.
Really?
Yeah, no shit. William Brown, Bill Brown, yep.
When we talk about history, isn't it funny, because none of us have seen Babe Ruth play, so we don't know. Right. He's an urban legend. He's like back there with the dinosaurs. Yeah, were dinosaurs around? Probably. I never saw one.
I guess.
If you ever saw a dinosaur, you'd probably he doesn't exist to me. It's in that different world. It's like, oh, Babe Ruth. But you look at Babe Ruth, and that's what I think you get back to the generational thing. You can't compare a guy that played the athlete in 1950 to the guy that's playing in 2025. All you can do is look at their numbers. How did they're playing with the best of the best in the world at their particular occupation, and you look, what was their numbers compared to their peers? And that's how I think that's how you base base greatness on. They talk about it all the time. Babe Ruth, what did he do? Well, he hit more homers than other teams in a single season. That's greatness. How did you dominate your generation? I think Babe's, when I say Barry Bonds, yes, I've never seen Babe Ruth play. But as far as dominating a generation, Babe, that's why Babe's considered kind of apple pie Chevrolet and Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny too. I got some pictures of my my grandfather, Babe Ruth, Dizzy Dean, it's crazy pictures. Satchel Paige later on. My grandfather, yes, Bob Gibson, when the Negro League was just getting like big. It was crazy. There's a lot of history there. My grandfather, it was crazy, but he told me a similar story to your grandfather as he was, deteriorating. They had amputated one of his legs. He got diabetic, but he lived till 93 years old. So, I mean, he lived a good life. He was telling me, though, he's like, man, Babe Ruth wasn't shit. He'd hit a home run or strike out.
I think the numbers say he was. he was pretty good.
Exactly.
He was pretty good.
No doubt.
Yeah, for sure. I just had a fan. I know one of the fan questions who are watching. And again, thank you so much for joining us. One of the fans asked, "What was your favorite stadium that you played in, and why?"
Favorite stadium? Well, my Mariner years, and it was Safeco at the time. Now T-Mobile. Man, I loved. My numbers were pretty good there. But as far as road stadiums, I loved playing at Old Yankee Stadium. There's something special about it. Every time I went there, you kind of felt that you were in a special place. Fenway didn't really fit my eye for my style of hitter. I loved Wrigley Field, but if push comes to shove and I've got to pick one stadium and I need some hits, I'm going to Anaheim Stadium.
Really?
It is my favorite. I could be 0 for my last 30, and if we're going to play the Angels tomorrow, I've got to skip in my step because I know I'm going to get some hits.
Over Colorado.
Colorado's great. I mean, it's a hitter's paradise, especially back then. That was pre-humidor. Big, spacious, and everybody talks about Colorado and they think, oh yeah, the home runs. Well, no, if you get a ball up, yeah, it carries farther than normal. Try hitting a wedge there. But it's not that gives you the big advantage in Colorado. It's the spacious outfield. They had to build the fences so big, and it's so vast out there because the ball travels. Well, there's plenty of spot. Now everything falls in, and if you get one up, it's a home run. So it was kind of a pitcher's nightmare that the sinkers don't sink quite as much because of the heavy air, and the breaking balls don't spin quite as tough. Those breaks aren't as nasty. So yeah, it's kind of a hitter's paradise. But Anaheim, I'll take it over any. Coors was kind of like a video game. You go there and it was kind of weird, and if you didn't get 2 hits every game, you were kind of disappointed. And if the pitcher gave up less than 5, it was a Cy Young outing. So it was different, but no, just as far as atmosphere, and I don't know, I went to high school and college in Southern California, so it was kind of coming home to me. Something about Anaheim, and you talk to players through the years. Usually the places you like are where you get the most hits, but for some reason, Anaheim Stadium to me is just the place I love. I love the Vet too. Before they knocked it down, the Vet was fun to play on.
No doubt. Hey, Brett, to end the show, man, we can't thank you enough. We do a little segment called Hell Yeah, Hell No, man, and I got to ask you a few Hell Yeah, Hell No questions real quick to end the show with some fun ones, a fun take. Make sure you follow Brett on Twitter and Instagram. Hell yeah or hell no, Brett, you are the inventor of the bat flip. Hell yeah or hell no?
I'd love to say hell yeah, because a lot of people think it's me, but there were some guys. I look back to a Reggie Jackson.
Yeah,
Reggie Jackson. Watch the 3-homer game in the World Series.
Yeah,
I mean, he hits it and he just lets it go, and that's what I used to do. Mine wasn't a flip. Mine was a part of my swing where I'd let it go when I hit one good. So I'd love to claim that it was mine. Maybe I just kind of brought it into vogue.
Yeah.
But there were some guys doing it. I used to remember watching in my generation was Dante Bichette. He kind of he'd hit a home run and he'd kind of give you the fingers. Then more the iconic, not necessarily bat flips, but I could watch Junior hit a home run all day. Yeah. Bonds wasn't bad because you knew something was going to happen every time he stepped in the box. But I'd love to take sole claim of that, but I'd have to say hell no. That was something that came out of, I started doing it, Mark McLemore, and my teammates, they loved it. They're like, you got to have this bat flip. That bat flip you have is great. You got to do it all the time. And I was kind of, you think I should? And so it was kind of egged on by my teammates, and it ended up growing into something, and that ended up being kind of my thing.
Hey, hell yeah or hell no, Brett. Baseball is the hardest professional sport to play.
Woo!
Well, I'm going to be a little bit biased, but not even close. Hell yeah. Being a hitter.
Okay.
Here's why.
All right, go.
There's a lot of great athletes in baseball, right? They could go. I'm not saying they could dominate an NBA court, but I'll guarantee you there's some baseball players that could go on an NBA court and not completely embarrass themselves. I'll guarantee you Mike Trout when he was in his heyday at his best could run a route in the NFL. I'm not saying he's going to be a starting wide receiver, but I'll guarantee you he could not embarrass himself. Name me a football player or a basketball player that could get in the box against Ohtani and not embarrass himself.
Jameis Winston.
Oh,
Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
Kyler Murray.
They're not going to embarrass themselves.
They got drafted.
You're right. They're not going to embarrass it. They got no chance. But you're right. They're not going to embarrass themselves. I just think per capita, a lot more baseball players can do. Baseball players are the best athletes in the world. It's not even close. They can do everything. They can go golfing.
Ooh.
I'm telling you.
No, I know you're not.
Okay,
right.
how about this? If you pick a Betts type player, a Mike Trout.
Yeah.
Take 20 of those from MLB.
Yeah.
And put them on a basketball court. You're just a pickup game at the local gym. They're probably going to be pretty good. Now take 50 NFL players and NBA players and put them in a batting cage.
Yeah.
It's not going to be pretty.
Nah, no doubt.
You might be on to something, JB. I know our football fans ain't gonna like that, but you might be on to something.
Bret, hell yeah, hell no. Bret Boone is the best Boone of them all.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's not even close.
Look at the numbers.
Brett said the facts are the facts. There's no bias here. It just is what it is.
That being said, I'll tell you, as I get a little bit older, back then, I was a middle infielder. I didn't pay attention to catchers. I took catchers for granted. We had Dan Wilson on those Seattle Mariner teams. He did a great job. The farther I get away from baseball, I really have a bigger appreciation for catchers, though, and how big of an impact they can have on a game. Just calling a game, but the way how important they are to a pitching staff and getting their pitchers through each and every game. Sometimes not having their best stuff. I look at my dad, and really as time goes on, I really have an appreciation for on the defensive side of the ball how great of a catcher he was. Yeah. But that being said, back to the question. Yes, it's hell yeah. It's not even close.
All right. Hey, last one. We get you out of here, man. We can't thank you enough. Hell yeah or hell nah. At the end of the day, Ohtani will be better than Barry Bonds.
Absolutely no chance. Hell no.
Wow.
Now, we can't compare, though, because Bonds didn't pitch. If you're talking about overall scope, Ohtani's he's two players.
Unicorn. He's a unicorn.
He's two players and two high-level all-star players.
Yeah.
Now, so in fairness to Barry, offensively, hell no. Not even close. And as great as he is, he's the second best player in baseball. The greatest people on earth, Ohtani to me is the second best offensive player in baseball. I'm going to give number one to Aaron Judge.
Okay, yep.
But as we sit here, I think he's the second best. But comparing him to Bonds, he's not even close.
Wow.
He's not even close.
Mic drop.
Yeah, I saw Bonds on Matt Barnes and them show that I go on frequently. And he was just talking about Michael Jordan, to your point. Like, Michael got in the cage and looked horrible. And we're talking about the GOAT of basketball all time, and he's in the baseball, and he couldn't even see the ball. Like, the hardest thing to do in the world is to hit a baseball. We all have heard that story. Chad Ochocinco said, and keeping a woman happy is the other one. So I guess. But,
I'll tell you this, though. Jordan, what people don't understand, Jordan, he was not a good baseball player, and he had no chance of ever being a big leaguer. But I've got to give Jordan some props. Dropping basketball in the middle of his career, being the greatest player on earth, and he didn't go to low A ball or A ball. He went to double A in the Southern League. I played in the Southern League. You get to double A, That's where people are kind of weeded out. Like this,
Yeah.
when the competition, that's the closest thing to the big league, especially in that time. He drove in 50 runs. Now, he hit 190, was probably the worst hitter in the league, but he just dropped everything and said, I'm going to go play baseball at the AA level. I have a little bit more of an appreciation for what driving in 50. And yeah, 50 runs back then. No, the monitor was, hey, you drive in 100 and you're great. But to drive in 50 at the AA level, not being a pro baseball player and just quitting basketball and going there, I got to give Jordan props. That's impressive. There's a lot of professional people that have done this for a living, done it their whole life, never drove in 50 runs at the AA level.
Come on now. There you go.
No doubt. Brett, man, we can't thank you enough. We're going to have you on again, man, as the baseball season gets going here. If you had to say, hypothetically, we put a hypothetical pistol at your head, Dodgers World Series champ. Hell yeah, hell no.
Hell yeah. I hate to say that. I always try to play the other side of the coin, and here's why they could lose. That roster, oof. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Well, we shall see.
No doubt. Yeah. Hey, Brett, I appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot for taking some time. If you ever need me, come let me know. If you need someone to come on and give some hot takes, I'll come on your show.
You got it, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. Anytime. Pleasure meeting you.